Hey guys, I'm Zeus. I'm a CRNA at a community hospital, and today I'll be walking you through how I manage anesthesia for a total hip replacement. This is one of the most common orthopedic procedures that I see, and there's more than one way to approach it. I'll break down my typical plan, when I choose spinal versus a general anesthetic, my go-to nerve blocks for pain control, and how I tailor the anesthetic plan to the patient's risks and the surgical technique. Today, we're talking about anesthesia for one of the most common and standardized orthopedic procedures we do, the total hip replacement, also known as total hip arthroplasty. Every year, over 450,000 hip replacements are performed in the United States alone, and as our population ages, that number is only growing. Whether it's due to osteoarthritis, fractures, or other degenerative joint diseases, this surgery provides dramatic improvement in quality of life for patients struggling with chronic pain and limited mobility. From an anesthesia standpoint, total hip arthroplasty is a well established procedure, and the techniques have become highly standardized across institutions. Most patients receive either spinal anesthesia, general anesthesia, or a combination, often with regional blocks for post op pain control. The choice between neuraxial anesthesia, typically a spinal, and general anesthesia depends on several patient and surgery specific factors. Neuraxial anesthesia is often the preferred approach. A single shot spinal with a local anesthetic like bupivacaine provides a dense motor and sensory block, excellent for surgical conditions, and allows patients to avoid airway manipulation altogether. It's associated with reduced blood loss, lower risk of thromboembolism, and fewer post-operative complications in many studies. That's why spinal anesthesia is considered the gold standard at many institutions, especially for primary elective hip replacements. When I perform a spinal anesthetic for a total hip replacement, I like to run a propofol infusion in the background to help keep the patient relaxed and comfortable. It can still be uncomfortable lying in the same position for an extended period, especially under drapes with limited mobility and the noise of the OR environment. For airway management, I keep it simple and non-invasive. The patient breathes on their own via a face mask or nasal cannula, and I monitor end tidal CO2 through the case to ensure they're ventilating well. This technique is smooth, well tolerated, and allows for a quick recovery. There are definitely situations where general anesthesia is the safer and more practical choice. For example, patients with severe spinal deformities, previous spine surgeries, or bleeding disorders may not be good candidates for neuraxial anesthesia. In those cases, general anesthesia is the safer option. One thing that's become standardized practice in joint replacements, including total hips, is the use of tranexamic acid or TXA. It's typically given intravenously, topically, or even both during the perioperative period. Studies have consistently shown that TXA is safe and highly effective at reducing blood loss and lowering the need for transfusions during joint arthroplasty. It's a small intervention that makes a big difference in managing blood loss and improving patient outcomes. One regional technique that I like to use for total hip replacements is the PENG block, which stands for Pericapsular Nerve Group block. This block targets the nerves that supply sensation to the front part of the hip joint, mainly the articular branches of the femoral nerve, the obturator, and accessory obturator nerves. What's really nice about the PENG block is that it gives you great pain relief but is motor sparing, meaning it doesn't usually affect the muscles that help you move your leg, so patients can start moving sooner. To perform a PENG block, I start by placing the probe transversely over the anterior superior iliac spine. Then I slide it down and medial until I can see the anterior inferior iliac spine and the iliopubic eminence. The dip between these two is the iliopsoas notch. You'll notice the psoas tendon has bright hyperechoic structure sitting right above that notch. I like to keep the femoral vessels and femoral nerve in view when I can. That helps with orientation and safety. Once I've got the image I like, I insert the needle in plane from the lateral side of the probe, and I advance until I hit bone in the iliopsoas notch. That's where I'm aiming. When I inject local, I should see it lifting the psoas tendon. That's a good sign I'm in the right place. For this block, I use a curvilinear probe. It works great for getting that deep image. And that's how I approach anesthesia for a total hip replacement. Now, of course, every patient and surgery is a little different, but it's all about balancing surgical condition, patient safety, and postoperative comfort.
If you found this helpful, or you're interested in seeing more anesthesia techniques, please leave a comment below. Also, if you're interested in seeing more CRNA content, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.